everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. The big LPG rate cut has happened. Union Cabinet today announced that the price of the 14 kilograms LPG cylinder will be reduced by 200 rupees for all users. News18.com was the first to report that this is coming almost 2 weeks back. And this is the step that was most key for the central government because the price of the non-subsidized LPG cylinder had risen to 1100 rupees. The last time an LPG cylinder was this expensive was before Narendra Modi came to power in 2014. But with key state elections coming up and of course the big general elections lined up where Prime Minister Modi is seeking a straight third term, the price was becoming a headache, a little bit of a headache for the government, coupled with inflation in some measure in other areas. With the cut now announced, the price will come down to 900 rupees, while the one for the subsidized Ujjwala cylinder will be at 700 rupees. The opposition has been quick to call this out as a measure forced by them coming together as part of the India bloc, raising questions on inflation and with an eye on upcoming elections. So, has this move been taken purely with an eye on elections, and if so, is there anything wrong with it? But more importantly, will it also take some of the wind out of the opposition's campaign versus the Modi government? We'll take that question to our guests in just a bit. But first up, take a look at the journey that the LPG cylinder price, especially the non-subsidized one, has taken over the last 10 years or so. As I mentioned, actually the price of the LPG cylinder in January 2014 was pretty high. It went as up as 1241 rupees. Then it was brought down to 752 rupees by December 2014. Of course, this was after Narendra Modi came to power. 584 is where it went. That was pretty low in December 2016. But 2 years later, by December 2018, it had risen to over 800 rupees again. Again, by January 2019, it was brought down to 689. These are prices just for the national capital, but they give you an indication of how things were in most metros and other parts of the country. Jan 2019, 689, the price was brought down from nearly 810. Again, this was in the run-up to the 2019 elections, mind you. And then, of course, October 2021, the price rose to almost 900 rupees. And July 2022, it was over 1,000 rupees. And as I said earlier, the price then went up to as much as 1,200 rupees. But it isn't like LPG subsidy has not been a focus for the government all along. Let me also break down some of the subsidies that have been provided by the centre in the financial year gone by, which is 2022-23. So the total subsidy that has been given by the government on domestic LPG was over 6,900 rupees in 2022-23. So the focus has been on mitigating the price of LPG. The government has also paid a one-time compensation of 22,000 crore rupees to state-owned oil marketing companies. This compensation was paid for under-recoveries on domestic LPG because the increase of the global prices was not fully passed over to the Indian consumers. The government has also provided more than 14.17 crore free LPG refills to Ujjwala Yojana beneficiaries in this time. Let's also take a look at the data of LPG consumption in the country. That will also give you an idea of how much this matters because there are more and more people now using it. So according to the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, the LPG use has increased to over 28,000 metric tons in 2022-23. LPG coverage in India has also increased by almost 100% in the financial year gone by, and already, of course, there is data to show that after Narendra Modi's push for LPG for all and doing away with more traditional wood-fired, stoves in poor households, the overall LPG consumption has increased by over 300% since he came to power. About 31.5 crore people have active LPG domestic connections today. And India also imports over 60% of its domestic LPG for its consumption, which is why insulating the domestic public from global prices has always been one of the big focuses of the government. So opposition parties are reacting to this because it does have a major political impact. Let me just break down why this is a very important step. And the big question I asked at the start of the show, is this with an eye on the elections, and also will it take the wind out of the opposition campaign? So why is this important? It is important because this punches the opposition's poll plank, which is trying to corner the government on price rise and inflation, and LPG cylinder forms a very important part of that. This also helps the government in tackling public mood high LPG prices was causing a damage to the government's reputation or just the feeling towards it. The pro-poor image. Narendra Modi's government has been marked with schemes that have benefited the poorest of the poor and even the middle classes, and the government wants to ensure that continues to be their image, that they're taking care of those beneficiaries. It also, interestingly, in election season, counters the Congress's subsidy vow. The Congress is pushing to provide 500 rupees subsidy on LPG in many of the states that are going to elections soon. So the big question, the big debate coming up on Plain Speak, is this a move purely with an eye on elections, and will it actually help the government?
Tomorrow is Raksha Bandhan, and I think in the true spirit of this Tyohar, of this occasion, I think this is a gift that goes out from the government, from the Honorable Prime Minister personally to all the sisters.
हर रक्षाबंधन में राखी पर बहनों की अपेक्षा होती है कि भाई कोई सौगात देगा, कोई भेंट देगा अथवा शगुन देगा। तो आज देश की 33 करोड़ बहनों की ओर से विशेष प्रधानमंत्री जी का आभार, जो उन्होंने घरेलू गैस को सिलेंडर को 200 रुपये सस्ता किया।
अनुराग ठाकुर जी जानबूझ के प्रधानमंत्री जी को क्या बदनाम करने के लिए इस तरह का ऐलान कर रहे हैं? कम से कम प्रधानमंत्री को बता दे कि कांग्रेस शासित प्रदेश में जो है 500 रुपये मिल रहे हैं।
Let's go across to the guests who are joining us. With me, Gopalkrishnan Agarwal of the BJP. I'm also joined by Mahima Singh of the Congress party. Khaleeq Rahman is the leader of the BRS. Remember, BRS is one of those parties that is not aligned with either bloc, and they're also, of course, Telangana is expecting elections very soon. R. Rajagopalan is senior journalist with us. I thank all of you for your time. Gopalkrishnan Agarwal, let me come to you first. In the acceptance that this is a benefit to the sisters, the women of India, is there also not an acceptance by the BJP that this was an issue that was hurting you and the image of the government in controlling prices or just the public mood? I also want to quote what Jairam Ramesh of the Congress party has said. He is saying, "Ye kissa demo kursi ka hai. Karnataka route, LPG price was one of the big reasons for it. There have been 2 highly successful India meetings, and that has you rattled." This is something most of the opposition leaders are saying. And of course, the fact that there are 5 state elections coming up and the general elections are soon after that. So is this move purely because you were feeling the heat?
No, Shivani ji, we have to understand that elections are going to be held next year, and some of the state elections are always being held in the country. So it is not that today only our government, Prime Minister has announced this. It is because of the Raksha Bandhan that is coming, and the women will be benefited out of this most. That is one thing. And earlier also we have done this. It is not that this is the first time. 200 was the subsidy of 200 rupees for the Ujjwala Yojana connections was also announced earlier. And then before that also last year, the Prime Minister has announced that there will be free gas connections given to the women, and almost more than 14 crore people have got this gas connection. Women have got gas connection.
But Gopalji, I pointed out earlier that in January 2019 also the prices were brought down to sub 700 level. That seems to be the aim again. So naturally the question will arise that you do this timed to elections.
No, you cannot say. If election will be always there in the country, because if you see the 5 years, in the last 5 years, every time there is some election somewhere. Even panchayat election is there, local body election is there, state elections are there, by elections are there. So does the opposition want to say that the government should now for 1 year do not do anything for the welfare of the people? If there is something hurting, the inflation is a concern for us on every point of time. We have done it for the tomatoes, we have done it for the onions, we have done it for other commodities also. So inflation, even the RBI is doing full effort to contain inflation.
Okay.
And you see globally inflation is a big worry, but India is at a better place position. It is because our government is actively trying to control inflation and also at the same time coming out with long-term solutions to
Okay,
increase
fair
the
enough. Can I bring in the Congress's Mahima Singh? Mahima Singh, what is the problem, if at all, this has been done out of pressure by the opposition because you were raising the issue of price rise and inflation and because you believe that this was hurting the public? The government is saying that we've been responsive all along. Every time the need has arisen, we have taken steps. So what's wrong with it? Why take jibes about this being political? Everything is political.
Jai Hind, steal the goose and give the giblets in arms, or how we say in Hindi, "900 चूहे खा के बिल्ली हज को चली." That is the BJP's story today. Because, of course, the annual retail inflation is at a 15-month high today at 7.44%. And the food price inflation, Shivani, is at a 3.5 years high, which is at 11.5% today. And the BJP had to do it to save the day. Of course, what you're asking, what the BJP spokesperson is purporting here, that, public welfare should be at the core of the functioning of any government. And so the Rajasthan, which is ruled by the Congress government, has walked the talk. We have been giving cylinders for 500 rupees per cylinder. But here is the BJP. You see, they spread fake news about how the cylinder prices were earlier. And unfortunately, in your report, right in the beginning of the program, you showed how it was 1241 in 2014 before BJP came in. However, let me remind that there was a subsidy. The subsidized cylinder at that point was 414 rupees.
Yes, ma'am, those prices were for non-subsidized. I clarified that. Those prices were for non-subsidized LPG cylinders throughout. So they're comparable.
Every Indian, Shivani, today every Indian wonders, where is the subsidy for the past 3-4 years? We are wondering, no subsidy is coming back to anybody's accounts. Even for those 10 subsidized cylinders, there is no subsidy at all. Tell me if you are getting it, because I am not. My
No, I mentioned at the start of my report that the government has provided over 10 crore free Ujjwala refills.
Yeah, Ujjwala story is a different one, and I think you must hold that debate on another day, because when we delve into that, a lot of it's a farce played upon the women of this country. But now you see, you talk about inflation and the BJP, unemployment, of course, is also linked to it. We remember how the petrol prices were slashed right ahead of the elections earlier. And then, there was this whole drama about that we have slashed the prices, petrol prices or diesel prices. And we saw how Mr. Modi shouted in his rallies and persuaded people when they did not say yes. He said, tell me loudly that they have been slashed. I mean, first you rise it just like how the brands do it. One is the facade that you put, and then you take the facade off to appease the people. Then subsidies, you see, on the LPG, as I already said, have not been paid. There's been a hike of 7% in March in toll taxes. 10% across NH44 today morning. The headline on the papers is that there is a 10% to 12% hike in NH44 tolls, where as it is, the tolls are very closely placed. In fact, in contravention to the provisions. So here is the BJP, which is not walking the talk when it comes to inflation. The whole world is talking about their ministers when it comes to onions and tomatoes. He was talking about slashing onions and tomato prices. Their ministers advise the people, stop eating onions. What is the harm if you don't eat tomatoes for 2-3 months? I mean,
leaving that aside, but there has been, of course, measures taken by the government for both tomato price rise earlier and onion price rise as well. It may not be measures that completely change the situation on ground. But the point is about the LPG subsidy that you were raising. If I have it correct, you are saying LPG subsidy is not reaching the public. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. For the past 3-4 years, there is no subsidy. I mean, today, if you see, earlier they had asked people to surrender subsidies.
Yes.
Today, even an average Indian is not. When we work door to door and we ask people, subsidies are not reaching the Indian public. We do not know what is the subsidy that is being.
Let Mr. Krishna respond to that. Let him respond to that before I go to our other guests. Yes.
One thing is, Shivani ji, I want to just clarify here that your own figure, I am on the board of one of the oil companies also. So your own figure says that last year 22,000 crores has been provided and given by the government to the public sector undertaking, which ultimately pass on this subsidy on the gas. And today 200 rupees is across board. Earlier, 200 rupees per LPG was for
Ujjwala
beneficiaries, but today what has been announced, it is for all the 33 crore users. So it is across board. Second, I want to just ask opposition, are they opposing the subsidy or they are just questioning the timing? So when they are announcing before the election that we are giving in Madhya Pradesh and other places that we will give subsidy of 500, what is it? Is it just to make fool of the people, or they genuinely mean it?
Okay,
So if
let us respond to that.
we are actually giving, they are announcing for the elections. We are actually giving across all board. Only 5 states are under election. Other out of the others, rest of the country is
No,
not.
but sir, there's a general election also coming up. Let's not discount that. But very quickly, fundamentally, politically, the question is what is wrong with what the government has done? If this is something that was hurting the public, they are taking it in the public's interest. And surely the Congress party's positions, Mahima Singh, will not be that this is not good.
I'll tell you. Please allow me an uninterrupted 10 seconds. You can, uninterrupted 10 seconds, please. You can give the cylinder at 500 rupees per cylinder. That's what we are saying. Neither the timing nor the prices. We are doing it. It is doable. Please do it. Give the cylinder at 500 rupees. It is doable. It is possible. You are befooling the people of this country. You are befooling the people of this country. You are playing farces on them. You are playing jokes on the people of this country by first arbitrarily raising the prices and then slashing them down, appeasing the people, which is actually how the government should be run.
No, it may not be fair. Just for the benefit of our viewers, Mr. Gopal, I'll allow you an opportunity. But for the benefit of the viewers, it may not be fair to say that arbitrarily or artificially the prices were raised of LPG. There is a global market to be taken care of, but I'll leave it at that. Let's focus on the issue we have at hand. Yes, Gopal Krishnan, 30 seconds alone, please, and then I have to go to my other guest.
I just want to tell that through direct benefit transfer, every beneficiary is getting the funds in his bank account. Earlier, it was that you give a subsidy on the product. And then what happens if a hotel is using 50 cylinder a day, they will get a subsidy on 50 cylinder when it was not utilized, which is not, they should not get it. So we have rationalized the subsidy. We have given targeted benefit to the poor. We are giving it to the bank account of them. Earlier, all leakages were there.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's not get into that because that's not the subject of the debate you're holding today. Khaleeq Rahman of the BRS. One second, let me go across to... One second, ma'am. You've had your interventions multiple times. Ma'am, please, just give some time to the other guests as well. I'll try and come back to you. Khaleeq Rahman, ultimately, the government has to respond to whatever seems to be the issue on ground. The BJP is happily accepting that, yes, we are doing this for the benefit and to ease the pressure on the public, and they've done it from time to time. So I'm not quite understanding what the attack on the government is. Or is it that the opposition, including parties like yourself, where Telangana will face elections soon, fear that this could benefit the BJP and undercut some of your campaign against them? Mr. Rahman, you could hear me?
Yeah, good evening. Good evening to my co-panelist.
Yes.
So this is not a question of, yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead. There's some delay, but go ahead.
So let me tell you that because whatever the BJP has done, slashing the price of the LPG cylinder by 200 rupees, that is purely keeping the keeping the rupees 200. I mean, keeping the election in view. So whatever the BJP does it only keeping the elections, whichever state they are going to have. Like in Telangana and in another 4 states, we are going to have the elections in December, and thereafter we are going to have the general election. So the BJP, if they wanted to actually slash the prices of the LPG, they could have done it earlier. And why only 200 rupees if they really want to actually, favor their sisters? What Smriti Irani ji has just said, that this is in fact a gift for the sisters from our honorable Prime Minister. So this, why only 200 rupees? If the BJP is really serious about the price reduction, then they should do it on all fronts. What's the inflation today? Today the average inflation is about 7.5% here, and the BJP is not at all honest in its approach. BJP is.
So what else would you like? Once again, I'll come back to you, sir. I want your line to be corrected. We'll do that. But in the meantime, let me also go across to R. Rajagopalan. Was the government feeling the heat of the pressure that was building on it, the BJP, especially with state elections coming up? And this is a move that has been well timed, if I can say so. Timing can always be questioned. It's an endless debate. But it is well timed to ease some of that pressure ahead of state elections and more.
Shivani, it's a welcome move. Whatever is done, the opposition has been totally exposed, especially the I.N.in, whatever the doubt alliance, whatever that. And Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, who spoke from the Red Fort, addressed the nation from the Red Fort, said Modi guarantee. So he stood to the word. He walked the talk. Modi guarantee, which is 200 rupees for general, 400 rupees for the public. So, day before yesterday, when the Chandrayaan was given Shiva Shakti, opposition cried foul. Today, Nari Shakti is getting importance. My understanding is, at least Narendra Modi did not bring a petroleum bond or gas bond like UPA did a fraud on the people. At the fag end of 2013, it was a very clever move by the UPA to pass on that, bonds to the taxpayers for next 10 years. So government is also under the pressure to subsidize that bonds. Mm-hmm. Modi did not do that fraud on the people like UPA did, like Sonia Gandhi regime did. And moreover, the free corona inoculation, from where did they get? The BRS spokesperson, Congress spokesperson said, why can't they do earlier? Earlier, the country was facing corona. Therefore, every 6 months you have election. Every 6 months you have election. Patna, Bangalore, Bombay, like that. Opposition meetings. Why are they holding meetings? They should not hold meetings. They should not have this. If they accuse the government of elections, why they are meeting? So Narendra Modi has taken the heat out of that India meeting. Therefore, the opposition is rattled.
Okay.
They are not at all welcoming it. It's a welcome move.
It may be a bit much to expect that the opposition at this stage is going to welcome anything by the government. I think we've come to a point, 6 to 8 months before the next general elections are take place or are announced, that it's not going to happen really. But yes, Mahima Singh, I'll come back to you. I fundamentally want to understand that, as far as the move is concerned, you can question the timing, you can question the intention, but none of this really cuts eyes. All of the measures that any political party or any sitting government announces is with an eye to win out the vote in the next elections. So I'm not quite understanding what's so earth-shattering about it.
You want me to speak?
Yes, Mahima ji, go ahead.
So first of all, to the BJP spokesperson who was presenting so much data to us but would not tell what are the prices of subsidized cylinders today, I want to say this, तुम्हारी फाइलों में गांव का मौसम गुलाबी है, मगर ये आंकड़े झूठे हैं, ये दावा किताबी है. Because when you get to the ground and you get talking to the women of this country in a faraway village, what you find out, please do not interject. Discipline is fundamental to a debate, sir.
I'm telling you, it is
Gopalji, I'll give you an opportunity. Just let her finish. I'll come to you.
Yeah, so you go to a distant village, Shivani, and when you talk to women, I have umpteen videos of those women who talk and who tell us that how they have been suffering. All the cylinders they are using for sitting upon them because they have no money to refill them.
No, but Mahima ji, I get that point. I'm not discounting that. But I'm not quite understanding what is your grouse today. The government seems to have done what you wanted them to do.
I just told you that it is doable to give a cylinder for 500. Why is the government not giving it? What is the price of today's subsidized cylinder? Can the BJP spokesperson tell us that? And then tell us that, on what basis they calculate that subsidy. When a Rajasthan government can give a cylinder for 500 rupees to the mothers and sisters of this country.
I'll ask him to respond. My question is, when you give 500 rupees subsidy in Rajasthan, is that also not with an eye on elections? That's the fundamental, opposition that the Congress has raised. But everything is with an eye to elections.
No. Look at when did we start giving that? Every election, every state we have won, we have provided old pension. We have resumed old pension scheme. In Rajasthan, we priced the cylinder at 500, much ahead of the election, because the role of the government, role of any party when it assumes the role as a government, is to do welfare for the people. The state's job is to do welfare, not to provide goodies, not to appease.
But there are a lot of promises that are also being made by Congress, by BJP, by all parties with an eye to elections. Some governments, sitting governments will do what they can do, but opposition
when
in
it
those
comes to
states
power,
has no
the
option
BJP
but to make promises, and they cannot make those cuts.
Shivani,
And Congress is
the
doing
B-
that in states where it is in opposition in. That's all my limited
B-
point in. But ma'am, I have limited time. Let me give 30 seconds to Gopal Krishna Agrawal to respond.
Please allow me to
One thing
respond to
I
what you just said.
tell
The
that,
BJP, when it assumes power, it
that
goes for 40%,
Mahimaji,
50% commission.
that our subsidized price is now around 700 rupees and per cylinder of LPG for the Ujjwala gas beneficiaries. Second thing is that we have not only done this 200, I have mentioned it several times that for the last 9 years, our government, particularly Narendra Modi ji, has been taken so many steps for the welfare of the people, whether it is the Ayushman Bharat Yojana, 5 lakh health insurance, or Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, 6,000 to farmers every year, or to the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, 3.5 crore people are getting house subsidy for 2.5 lakh, and then there are so many schemes about the
Okay, but the question that the BJP will face is if this has come too little, too late, and I think fundamentally the public will respond to that. Khaleeq Rahman, I have limited time, sir. Khaleeq Rahman, 30 seconds to you. I think we tried to fix the line with you. Are you worried that this could take some of the wind out of your campaign in Telangana, for example? You're not part of the India bloc, but inflation and price rise seems to be the biggest attack against this government.
The BJP, in fact, has no ground in Telangana, let me tell you that. And this reduction of 200 rupees is not at all going to be taken
400. Earlier,
by...
was also.
No. Let me speak. While you were speaking, I didn't interrupt. So this is not going to have any impact, especially on the election.
Okay.
BJP actually is rattled, especially after they lost the Karnataka election, because they know that they want to, have a different narrative. So this is all. Whatever BJP does, it is all with a political motive. So it is nothing to favor the sisters, as Smriti ji said, but this is only to get the votes in the states, whichever are going to.
But sir, how does anyone get votes? Why are we acting like you get votes without doing things for the
Shivani,
public?
one second, Shivani.
Rajagopalan, yes.
No. Why BJP is doing just only before the elections?
No.
I think we tackled the issue of the timing. Every 6 months there are some elections in India. No. This is an argument I've heard for everything the government does, which must be fair. Every 6 months there's an election in India. I have limited time. I'll give 30 seconds to our Rajagopalan.
Why can't Ashok Gehlot bring that cylinder prices to 200 rupees? Why can't the DMK, TMC, other opposition parties reduce the price like Narendra Modi did? Why can't the state government subsidize it? Why can't Himachal Pradesh? Why can't Chhattisgarh reduce the price? Why Congress is silent on that? They should come out with subsidy program, 200 rupees, come karo.
Okay. Well, one of the issues that the BJP raises as far as difference between opposition ruled states and Congress and BJP ruled states is actually petrol and diesel prices, even natural gas prices, because that's where some of the cuts that have been announced by central government and BJP governments have not been comparable to the Congress government. But I'll leave it at that. I've run out of time. I do thank all of our guests for joining us for our first debate.